Welcome to the Common Heathens podcast. To find out more about who we are and what we're all about, visit our website, commonheathens.com. Hi, I'm Godless Mom.
And hi, I'm Mr. Oz Atheist.
A while ago, we posted a meme asking for questions because Mr. Oz and I are working on something big. So this is it. Basically, we are attempting to do a podcast, and we came up with the name Common Heathens because we're both from the Commonwealth.
The mighty British Commonwealth.
So Mr. Oz is also known as Donovan, IRL.
I am, yes.
And I'm Courtney.
I can go by Mr. Oz. I don't mind.
Yeah, well, I call you Oz.
You do.
I pretty much never use your name.
No.
And you know what? You call me GM, so...
I do. I just got to get the great and powerful in front of the Oz part, and then it was set.
Yeah. Well, with this podcast, we will end up taking over the world, so we'll add that to your title.
All right. We have collected a bunch of questions from some followers and some not followers. Courtney, I think the idea was to read them out and see if we can answer them.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, well, the first one we received was from a Twitter person called Rambling Agnostic. And the question is, how can you possibly claim to be atheist when you say you lack faith in your belief? Now, I don't really know what that even means. Tackle it.
Well, having had a couple of conversations with Rambling Agnostic before, I think I know what he's getting at.
Okay.
I'll take a stab at it. I think basically he's stuck on the idea that saying that you're an atheist means that you claim there is no God. Like, definitively, you know there is no God, which would be a belief.
Yep. But he's saying we lack faith in that belief.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess Rambling Agnostic, I can claim to be an atheist because I do not believe any gods or goddesses exist. I mean, that's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if you lack belief in God, you're an atheist. That's it. Full stop.
Yeah, exactly. As David Silverman says, it doesn't really matter if you like it or not. Tough shit. You're still an atheist.
Exactly. We claim you're part of our cult.
Yeah, too bad. But yeah, some people go a step further and say that they know there's no God, or that the idea of a God is impossible.
Yep, and that would be a subset of atheists.
Yeah, which I do not belong to.
I do, depending on the circumstance.
Yeah.
Like, philosophically, knowing something doesn't mean absolute certainty, whereas on Twitter, it seems to. Like, if you say you know something, then you need absolute proof and certainty and stuff. So it depends on the audience I'm talking to. But for the sake of discussion, agnostic atheist is the path to go down, I think.
Yeah. I would say that I'm pretty much the same. It's for, I think I've written about this a few times, it's for the sake of debate, more or less. I want to avoid making claims about the existence of God either way, just because of the whole burden of proof thing.
Yeah, exactly. And when it comes to the discussion, I think the point that I always try to get to is reason. What is the reason for believing a God exists? And there simply isn't a good one, and that's why I don't.
Yeah. The idea of God to me is completely and utterly asinine. Like, it's just...
Yeah. It's absurd.
It's just way out there. Like, I just don't understand how anybody can believe it. But I can't definitively say that I know for certain that there's no God. So I guess the whole agnostic bit is a technicality.
Yeah, and that's a reasonable and rational position to take.
But of course, there's people like Rambling Agnostic who insist that atheist only means that you know there is no God. And I don't really think that any answer we give him is going to satisfy him, to be honest.
Yes. We'll either get accused of avoidance or changing the definition to suit ourselves and, that kind of thing. And that's why I think it's important to not get stuck up on the labels and the definitions. And I'm sure our audience is familiar with the show The Atheist Experience out of Texas. And one of the things they do is they start with what do you believe and why. And I think that's the great place to start. And you go from there. And it doesn't matter whether I call myself an atheist, an agnostic atheist, a Gnostic atheist, a 6.9 on the Dawkins scale, a strong atheist, whatever. It doesn't really matter. The question that needs to be addressed is what is believed and why it's believed, and whether or not that why is good reasoning. And I've spoken to a lot of theists, and I haven't found one with good reasoning yet.
Yeah. There was a point in time where the word atheist did mean more or less that it was somebody who asserted there was no God. And it's slowly changing. And I think that if the majority of people who identify as atheists are saying this is what it means, then you have to kind of accept that definition.
Yeah, exactly. Words do evolve. It changes over time. There used to be a billboard ad in Australia, which I think it was for bread. I'm not sure why, but it said, in the past, gay meant happy and a couple of boobs were a pair of idiots.
Yeah.
And that's changed over time. And so, yeah, I think, if, like you said, if someone identifies as an atheist and they say, this is what being an atheist means to me, and that is the terminology that is used and grows, then yeah, people like Rambling Agnostic and a guy called Jeff on Twitter I've been discussing with over the past couple of days, who is insisting that also that atheist means you declare there is no God. They just have to accept that, well, no, that's not what it means now. Like we've adapted, we've changed, and the word has evolved.
Yeah, exactly. I agree, Oz.
Thanks.
Okay, so the next question was from Green Earth Gal, and she said, how do you deal with people who are complete assholes and continue to be assholes no matter what?
You know what I do? I tend to be nice to them, and like one of the phrases I like to use is that's just hurtful. And so sometimes you get into a discussion where the person you're talking to has to add like words like moron and imbecile. Like, how did life start then, moron? Or what caused the Big Bang, you imbecile? And I just completely ignore the insult and answer the question, or say, why do you have to call me the names? That's hurtful. We don't need to go there. So my bio on Twitter is actually a quote from the show Frasier, and it says, no matter how low someone else sinks, joining them there does not make things better. And so I try to remember that when someone's coming at me with a real asshole attitude and they're just being, insulting and mean and stupid, I think I can join them in that if I want. And back in my early Twitter days, I probably did. But now I just think, no, if you want to go down that path of just being an absolute cretin, that's up to you, but I'm not going to join you. So to answer a question, how do I deal with it? Just be nice. Just try kindness. And if it gets to the point where it's just there's no use, there's no point continuing, I'll just bid them farewell. I'll sometimes go with the Willy Wonka line, good day, sir, and that'll be it.
Yeah, I think my answer is probably quite similar. I try to be nice, and I try to kind of pull the old guilt trip, you know, like, I don't understand why you're calling me names, stuff like that. Even, like, there'll be times when people are, like, super, super rude, and I'll say, well, I don't know if we can have a decent conversation if you're going to act like that, but I really hope you have a great rest of the day, or something like that. Just to kind of, like, I hope that they walk away from that thinking, wow, maybe I was a bit of an asshole,
Yeah.
But there are times when I totally lose my cool. And I think that people have seen that happen on Twitter. I get a lot of comments, people saying, how can you be so patient? How can you be so patient? And sometimes I think, like, I don't really think that I am. Sometimes I do lose my cool.
Yeah.
But I think the key is just being nice because, for me, I think the biggest thing that bothers me about, the dynamic between atheists and everybody else in the world is this idea that atheists are somehow less moral, they're joyless, they're not happy, they're miserable people, they just have this gray, dismal view of atheists. And I think if you're cheerful, no matter what people are doing or saying to you, if you're cheerful, if you're kind and polite and you just don't let it get to you as best you can, then you're going to do a ton for changing that image of atheists, right?
Yeah.
Because here you are in a conversation with somebody who's a believer who thinks that they're better than you or they're happier than you or they have more joy than you. It's being the total douchebag while you're being super nice.
Yeah.
You're just proving that the stereotype is completely wrong.
Yeah, and it's probably a person whose entire knowledge of atheists comes from someone who is not, in fact, an atheist. Like, they get told atheists are angry, atheists are miserable, like you were saying, and they've never had interaction with any, they've never spoken to any, and so the opinion they've formed on us is completely without base. And then, like you said, you talk to them and suddenly we are happy and we are kind and, we do treat them nicely, and maybe little by little they will start to get the idea that, hang on, these are just everyday, regular people who happen to not believe God exists. They wouldn't think someone who doesn't believe unicorns or leprechauns or fairies exist would have any kind of a different life. And for us, we put gods in that same category, completely mythical, made-up, imaginary creatures. So the fact that we don't believe one exists doesn't mean that we're sitting in the corner crying all day, rocking back and forth, saying, get them off me.
Like, there are times when it gets to you, right?
Yep.
There are always times when it gets to you. And in those moments, I have to, like, the key to being patient and to just keeping my cool is reminding myself, this is a stranger. This is somebody I don't know. This is somebody who doesn't matter to me. This is an anonymous person on the internet, and I can't let this person get under my skin. But if they manage to, I usually mute them. I don't like blocking people, but I will usually mute them and then put my phone down and close my computer and go hang out with my family.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Something to remember, and I've actually told this to people, is that being on Twitter is optional. And I used to, I don't do it so much anymore, but I used to quote something said about atheists and add my own little line to it. And that would see someone get a fair few tweets for the next hour or so, like my followers will chip in on the conversation, and for someone who has just said something wrong about atheists, suddenly they find it overwhelming that their mentions or interactions are filling up with all these tweets. And I've said to people, just put your phone down. Like, in 2 hours time, no one you're talking to right now will remember this conversation. So like you said, put your phone down, go out, hang out with your family, watch TV, read a book, something like that. So,
Or if it's really bad, crack a beer.
Oh, yeah, crack a beer. Right, yeah, a Bailey's.
These people are going to have to deal with the fact that I'm a Canadian and you're an Australian and we like our beer.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And I like your point about it's a stranger. Like, it's not like, someone is telling you that you're living your life wrong and you need to make serious changes. It's some anonymous person, you don't even know where they are, saying, hey, you're a dickhead. And you just go, well, okay. Whatever. You know what frustrates me more than actually being insulted and called names and that kind of thing? It's when people don't understand what I'm saying. Like, so if I explain something and they come back and they're still wrong about it, that's what gets to me. I just think, how can you be so fucking stupid?
Yeah.
Like, understand what I'm saying. And I must admit, I do a thing which is not, like, going back to saying being kind. It's probably not the kindest thing, but I'll say to people, look, I cannot dumb this down any further for you. I'm using the simplest words I can find and you're still not understanding, so we're just going to have to leave it there. And that's what frustrates me more. Like, if someone comes on and says, you're a filthy atheist and you've got no morals and you must hate your family, whatever. But if they say atheism is a religion and I explain why it isn't and they still think it is, man, that bugs me.
Yeah. What gets to me the most is when people assume things about me. You've seen me get mad about that.
Oh, yeah, you get mad about that.
I just hate it. Like, I hate it when they just assume. Lately, the thing that's been getting to me is when they do this on Instagram all the time. Like, literally every second comment is, if you don't believe in this, why do you spend, like, your whole life talking about it? And I'm just like, yes. How do you know that I spend my whole life talking about it? And they always answer, well, look at your Instagram. And I'm like, dude, how is my Instagram my entire life? Like, yeah, I post a lot of stuff on my Instagram, but I have special tools to schedule them. Like, I'm not actually there posting them 24/7. Yeah. If you actually go into the comment sections of my Instagram photos, I'm rarely commenting because I don't have the time to answer everybody's comments. Instagram is like maybe 0.002% of my life.
Yes.
But somehow, like, these, I guess because they're young, like, a lot of people on Instagram are young teenagers and Instagram probably is their lives, but
yeah,
that bothers me the most when people just assume things about you. They just assume what your life is like. They assume what you teach your kids. They assume all of these things, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I try to tell people, perhaps you should ask an atheist what they think about XYZ rather than, telling them what they think.
Yeah.
I mean, it would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What does this person think about this? Well, I'll tell them what they think, and then they get angry at it. Like, you hate God and that's so stupid. And you go, dude, I don't. You're getting angry at me for something that you made up about me.
Somebody said that on Instagram the other day. They said, so what's up here? Do you just hate God? And I responded and I said, no, I'm an atheist. Like,
Yeah.
clue in. How do you hate something you don't believe in?
Yeah, I like to tell people to go and have a cup of tea and a sit down. They get worked up. They get so much worked up than we do, I reckon.
Yeah, but you know what? On the flip side, I've seen atheists do the same thing. I've seen atheists assume crap about believers, especially like if somebody comes along and starts talking to us or criticizing us for what we're posting on Twitter or something like that. It's automatically assumed, unless their name is like Middle Eastern sounding, it's automatically assumed that they're Christian. And then these atheists will just be like, oh, your Bible is horse shit or whatever. And it ruins the whole conversation when you assume about the other person. Like, you've just got to stop making assumptions. You go into it assuming you know nothing about this person.
I tweeted only in the last week or so, address what is actually said, not what you assume is meant by what is said. And so when I've had that exact situation, like someone will say something to me, I'll reply, and they are an atheist or they declare like an agnostic, and then exactly what you said, people come in and start criticizing them for believing the Bible. And I just think, hang on, they haven't said anything about believing the Bible yet. Like, actually look at what is said.
Also, I think it's important to not just assume that this person is being an asshole for the sake of being an asshole, and that maybe they're not fully understanding why you're posting this stuff. And when they first look at it, it hurts them. Like, it hurts them to see that. You have to sometimes understand that does happen, right? And if you can talk to this person without getting your own back up and without being just a jerk to them, you can maybe get them to see that what you're doing is totally reasonable. Mm-hmm. That what we're doing is expressing how we feel about religion. It just so happens to be the opposite of how you feel about religion. Yes. And so you find it insulting, but we have every right to express it just like you do.
That's a great point. Yeah, they never go onto a religious person's Twitter or Instagram or Facebook and say, hey, you're expressing stuff about religion. You shouldn't do that, because they agree with it.
Yeah, but you have to be, in the beginning at the very least, until they've proven that they are really just there to be an asshole. You've got to be gentle, even if they're being jerks. Like, just be gentle and be calm, because you never know when you're going to change somebody's mind. You never know when you're going to meet somebody who wants to hear about your points of view. Like, how many religious people have we talked to on Twitter before? Like, I have, Frankie Bird, she's awesome. And there's Anka, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but she's from the UK too. And then there's Jeb and Richard Simkin and like all these people who follow me on Twitter who are religious, who are people that, came to me asking me questions about things that I posted. And sometimes we even get into arguments, and sometimes they're even heated arguments, but we're respectful of each other. Yep. And at the end of the day, they are still there, and we're still following each other, and we're still exchanging ideas, which I think is the most valuable thing that we can do as atheists to promote a better image of atheists.
I completely agree. Okay. Kingdom of Rourke asks, in what way do you feel you are making the biggest impact on followers or others you interact with? I guess that's a good question to follow on with. It's sort of, the previous question leads into that. For me, I think there's two areas. One of the things that I've received a lot as feedback is from people who are either new to atheism or have been atheists for a while, but I guess are sort of in the closet about it. And it's, thank you for letting me know I'm not alone, that there's others out there who feel like I do about religion and about God. And the second part is I've been thanked a lot for helping people get their own thoughts straight. Like, I've been an atheist for a while, but I've never been able to articulate why. And, you've helped me put those thoughts in order and, given me confidence in being an atheist and how I feel about religion and God. So that's part one of the biggest impact I've had. And part two would be the people who have come to me saying that they were a believer and now they're not, and things that I've said have helped them on that path. I mean, that's an incredible thing to hear, that, you have helped someone leave religion and enter the rational world of critical thinking. So that's my biggest impact, I think.
That is exactly my answer too. I think that like some of the things that I get from my readers and some of my followers and stuff, some of the notes that I get are that they're very alone, and they're hiding. They're scared. They don't know what to do. They, like they're just completely lost. And to me, it's just coming from Canada, it's crazy
Yeah.
that just because you don't believe in God, that these people are going through these things. And I really had no idea when I started how bad that was. I really had no idea. It's come as a complete shock to me. I had no idea how horrible people were treated because they don't believe in God. And they write to me and they say that, the things that I say and do are helping them to feel better about themselves and feel like there's nothing wrong with them and that they're okay and they're normal. And then I also get I probably haven't had as many as you because you've been on Twitter a lot longer than I have. But I've had a few people write to me or message me saying that, the things that I've done or said has helped them leave their religion behind. I have one who's actually quite outspoken about it. I get probably one tweet a day from him telling some believer how I helped change his mind. And it's totally flattering. I never expected to be able to do that. And that wasn't my goal when I started this. My goal was just to get my thoughts out, and that's it. And now I realize that so much more needs to be done because, like I said, just the way people get treated, it just came as a complete shock to me.
Yeah, I agree. And I had no goal when I started. I had what I call my everyday Twitter account, and there was a couple of tweets about God or religion or something on there, and I replied to them, and they became sort of lengthy arguments. And I thought, I don't want to fill my Twitter with this, so I created Mr. Oz Atheist just to argue that point. And it sort of grew and grew from there. And then from there, I guess I started to reach a bigger audience, and had a bit of profile with it. And things have changed, and obviously I don't just go on there to argue now and try to help people, try to teach people. I had one guy who came to me about evolution and how it wasn't true. He was a creationist. I had a bit of a discussion with him, sent him some links to go and read, and he actually did. It started with the why are there still monkeys, I think. I think that was the original question. Rather than make fun of the question, I actually answered it. And he got back to me 3 days later and thanked me and said he now understands evolution a lot better. He understands that what he was told it wasn't actually true. And he still follows me to this day. I don't know where he is on the scale, whether he's an atheist now or not, but at least he understands evolution. And I think the goal is to not necessarily make the world atheistic. I'd love if everyone just understood atheism, understood evolution. Obviously, they are separate topics, but they do go hand in hand a lot. And just understand the fact that you believing in God doesn't mean my life should be different. And if I could get people to understand that and they remain theists, then, I have no problem with that.
I agree. As far as my impact goes as well, something that I have seen a lot of is people in Islamic countries who have gotten themselves into trouble, in particular Mubarak, when he contacted me, and being able to, be a part of the team that helped get his story out there and put pressure on everybody to get him out of the hospital and stuff like that. That's another huge part of the impact that I think I've had. And I also, because of that, I still get a lot of messages in private asking me for help with the same situation. I just got one yesterday, and so I keep a list of resources for people who are wanting asylum from dangerous places for atheists. Wow. But I think that's also something that's really important that we do. It's not just me. It's a lot of us. I know that a lot of other prominent atheists out there get the same questions from other people, and there's just a ton of them.
I agree, and I remember the Mubarak thing, and I think that's where you and I sort of first went from just following each other on Twitter to talking and trying to get help for him. And I was only a very small part of that compared to what you did, but it was good to be part of. And I think you're right, helping normalize atheism and helping people who do feel like not only feel like they're being imprisoned, but he literally was, and helping get him out. And I think you would as well receive a lot of messages from people in the Bible Belt about how lonely and isolated they feel.
Yeah.
They say, being on Twitter helps them. It's the only release that they can have. I know people keep, the fact that they're an atheist secret because of the feared repercussions from it. So, yeah, I think that's a great point, helping people out of situations or even just letting them know they're not alone is a great way to have an impact.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that is a good place to end it. Thank you for joining me and doing this with me. I think it's gone very well.
Yeah, I had fun. I think we should tell them how to get in touch with us if they have more questions. So I am at godless_mom on Twitter, and you can find me at godlessmom.com as well.
I am at Mr. Oz Atheist, no underscores, on Twitter. And you can email me at mrozatheist@gmail.com.
And in the future, if you guys like this podcast, we want to know. So maybe in the future, we will do some more and set up a website and all that stuff.
Yeah, hopefully take it somewhere, because I guess, the Twitter thing, and we both do a blog. Yours is so much more regular and better than mine, but I do one as well, and the occasional video as well. And the audience for that is limited. So getting into the podcast world might help get that message out.
Yeah. So from this point on, I think we're probably going to be doing it sporadically. I think we're going to be aiming at once a month.
Yeah.
But, if we get some real positive feedback, we might increase that or whatever. I don't know. It's up in the air.
I mean, it would be good to know that people are listening and we're not just doing this for an audience of two, which happens to be us.
Yeah. Although it's still enjoyable, I'm not going to lie. You're my buddy.
Mm-hmm. Thanks,
and
mate.
We talk a lot anyway, but it's nice to not do it in text.
Yes. Also, people can tweet us questions as well. And you can use the hashtag AskOzandGM. I think that was it.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you. Common Heathens out. Thanks for listening to the Common Heathens podcast. For more information about us, you can visit commonheathens.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at Common Heathens. And you can like our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/commonheathens. If you liked this episode and you want to see more, consider becoming our patron. Visit patreon.com/commonheathens. And thank you for listening.